Hey everyone, this show is brought to you by Driffles Jerky. Are you like us and love beef jerky, but hate paying those high prices for subpar meat? Well, at drifflesjerky.com, they have the money meat.
You said the money meat?
That's right, the money meat. Great tasting beef jerky made from top quality cuts of beef at great prices. Use promo code franchise tag to get yourself 10% off on your order today.
That's DRIFFILLS jerky.com. What's up, everybody? It's Aaron and Ray back again with another episode of Franchise Tagged Fantasy Football Podcast. As always, we're thrilled to be here. Sorry if it sounds like I'm talking quiet and kind of monotone. I mean, I sound monotone anyways, but people are asleep in the house because we're recording late because it's the only time that really fit in the schedule. But anyways, Ray, how you doing?
Pretty freaking good. See, I don't have to worry about those kinds of things because I'm out in the sweltering heat of my garage. So no one can hear me. I can be as loud as I want.
You know, I mean, I would have had my own room, but it's about to be turned into a nursery, so I just went ahead and set up in the little loft area.
It
is what it is at this point in time, huh?
Yeah, it is what it is. Can't take it back.
I wouldn't want to. So,
anyways, Aaron, I do have a question for you today.
Yes.
It's a simple one. It's a simple one.
Okay.
Okay. Do you remember ever playing Madden when you were growing up? Who was your favorite person to draft in Madden? Not a high total guy like Vic, but like somebody in the deep cuts, like a Corey Dillon or something like that.
Growing up, I played more of NCAA than I did Madden.
Well, that question shot out the cannon. Anyways, mine was Bethel Johnson. So there's that.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was Bethel Johnson and Corey Dillon.
Well, I'll just use yours. Bethel Johnson and Corey Dillon.
Sure. Anyways.
Sorry, growing up in Oklahoma, I didn't really, I watched NFL, but I was more into the college football game. But, caveat, when you could start drafting your own created players into Madden, then I would play Madden. So.
But you don't even play NCAA now.
They don't make NCAA anymore.
They still got 14. You can play that.
Yeah, if I still had the Xbox 360. And I think I do actually in my storage unit.
It's crazy because you can actually play college teams on Madden right now.
Oh, can you?
Yeah. Or at least the last one you could have. This one, I don't know. I haven't really tried it because I'm not a big college guy.
Tell you what, Ray. I'm not anymore. But once they make Madden to where it is cross-compatible from PC to Xbox, I will play with you. I will buy the game, download it, and play with you. It is not cross-compatible, but okay.
It is not. Hey, check this out. So me and Eric, we got a pretty nice little bet tomorrow. I just want you to hear it. So it's just for a round, but we got a head-to-head Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs tomorrow night.
Oh, is Watson playing tomorrow night?
He has to be. There's no way. He's practiced all week.
Okay. Fair.
No way. I mean, obviously, if he doesn't play, then that doesn't count, right? Right, Eric?
I would think that'd be null and void at that point in time. Due to injury,
you know what?
But
so I didn't say that. So he could be like, look.
He could. You still owe him that money, boy.
That is true.
How did he get Dobbs when you're on the Dobbs hype train?
You see, I did buy a Christian Watson jersey. One day it'll come to my house. One day. But I did buy a Christian Watson jersey right when he got drafted. And he was exactly who I wanted the Packers to draft. So That's how,
How did that work out?
We never get that freak athlete. Never.
That's fair.
That top percentile receiver coming out of the draft. We never get that.
That's fair.
And we're going to talk about that a little later in the show. Little caveat there, little jab into what's going to happen later.
That's fair. Oh.
So what do you got for us today, Aaron?
Oh, what I have for us today, and I cannot wait to hear the end of this.
What are you so worried about?
I knew you were high on this guy. Oh, you're going to draft this guy. Oh, I told you were going to draft him. Oh, da. All the hoopla.
Hey, don't feed the trolls.
All the hoopla that comes along with it from them coming out from under their bridge to harp on the negatives and never tell us, hey, like what you guys are doing. So, but anyways.
Don't feed the trolls.
Let's talk and go over our premium picks. People we are targeting in the draft are guys that we're high on. I think you called them our fellas. I don't know why you like the word fellas so much, but our fellas.
It's like a little play on another really popular fantasy football podcast and what
guys
they do.
That we're not necessarily clicking the trigger to draft every time, but just guys to kind of keep an eye out for in certain rounds or look at to possibly kind of open maybe a little different thought process to guys that we just kind of like in general.
I think mine, and this is kind of play off what you just said, my list is more opportunities.
Yep.
Opportunities and talent and things of that nature. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because, I mean, we could have just taken the easy road and been like, Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson.
I bet
they're good.
RB1.
So, anyways, that's what we're going to do today. I think Tuesday's show is going to be the 16-man mock draft. I don't want to put it in stone, but I'm pretty sure Tuesday's show is going to be the 16-man. I've been working frantically behind the scenes to get as many user-generated picks as I can to get into the draft. That way it's not just us and the computer like it was last year, so we can get actual human input and feedback.
Yeah, now
right now there's a total of, I think, 6 of us total right now. So, I mean, if people want to help out, and we'd appreciate it.
I was about to reach out to you guys and say, if you guys are listening right now and you guys would like to be on the 16-man draft, just help us out. Drop a comment into the YouTube page or send us a message. Get on Facebook, send us a message, Twitter and whatnot. So let us know if you want to join in, because we could really use the help.
Yep, for sure. All right, Ray, with that being said, do you want to kick this off?
You know, I do.
Okay.
I do, because I think that this isn't even like that spicy of a take, but I feel like the end of this is going to be, and I feel like I'm going to catch some flack for it. But I know that we've been hyping up Romeo Doubs, and I know that Christian Watson is the hottest thing since sliced bread. I understand these things.
Yep.
But going into training camp and all of the pressers that Aaron Rodgers has done and all of the news out of Packers camp is that Allen Lazard is the clear-cut, absolute number one. And Rodgers said it 100 times. He's verbalized it and enough to where there's no way that that's not true, at least for the first half of the season.
Yeah.
Now, I have some statistics to bring up just so that we can maybe paint a better picture for Allen Lazard, because I think that where he's going is extreme value if he is, in fact, that real number one. So there currently right now is 169 vacated targets, trusted targets that had left with Devontae Adams. That's a huge target share. Huge. Now, Lazard currently, his ADP is sitting around the 9th round, 10th round. I don't think that he gets any higher than that. I just don't. And historically, Rodgers has just not given any work to any rookie receiver that he's ever got drafted. Now, I would also like to preface this by saying that in the past, there has been veterans in front of these rookies. Let's say Devontae Adams had Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, James Jones. Jordy Nelson had Greg Jennings. He had Donald Driver. He had people in front of him. I don't necessarily think that Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs have that dude in front of them. Yes, Randall Cobb is still in the building as a shadow of his former self. Yes, Allen Lazard is that premier number one that, Rodgers wants to toe. But it's just something to maybe take account into when you're drafting Lazard. But I just wanted to really bring up that last season he was targeted 60 times. He had 40 receptions for 513 yards. I think that if he were to able to get to like 120 targets, I don't think is not out of the realm of possibility, especially seeing how he is that blocking receiver that LaFleur likes. He is the guy that you want on the outside because he's a big body. He's going to be on the field all the time without injury. I think in the 9th round, he returns way too much value to not at least take a shot on. Guys going around him, just what are you going to do? You're going to take DeAndre Hopkins in the 8th and not get anything back from him for 6 to 7 weeks? I think 8 because their bye week is on the 7th week, is it not?
Yeah.
I really look into that. But you just got to look at how how that kind of shakes out. Now, I wanted to give you some more ADP in the Packers receiving core. You have Romeo Doubs right now sitting in the 10th, the back of the 10th, the beginning of the 11th. He is just skyrocketing at the board. I know.
Wow. If you guys on the audio version couldn't see my facial expression, it was befuddled.
If you do a mock draft right now, I promise he goes at the least 11th.
That's ridiculous.
I did 20 today. Christian Watson's still going around the 15th, 14th right there. So is Sammy Watkins. And then Randall Cobb is obviously undrafted. But just a name to keep in the back of your minds. If you see Allen Lazard fall to the end of the 9th, the beginning of the 10th, I think that is extreme value for what his upside being a mid-range receiver 2 with possible high-end receiver 2 return with his touchdown upside.
Okay. How many touchdowns did he have last year?
He had 8 total touchdowns.
Oh, that's not very bad for only getting targeted or only catching 40 balls.
Because he's a red zone guy. And you know what Rodgers does in the red zone? He likes to throw a lot in the red zone. Now, I don't know if now without Devontae, does that shift the momentum over to A.J. Dillon or a Aaron Jones? Does that happen? This is all an unknown commodity. But if you're looking at what Rodgers is saying, how the camp has been going, what his historical background has been with rookie receivers, and Lazard's current ADP, I don't think that you can really miss on a 9th round, 10th round flyer.
Yeah, that's fair. And to your point, I do feel like with Allen Lazard specifically, you're going to know that if after week 1 or week 2, if he's a guy that he's going to be on your roster, or you're going to drop him for someone on waivers. Or
find the Packer fan in your draft and say, hey, I got Allen Lazard for cheap, and send him if that's how you feel.
Yep, I would agree with that. So you ready for mine? I've talked about him a lot.
I'm always ready for it.
Talked about him a lot. Allen Robinson would be mine. And most people think, oh yeah, that's not very, off cuff of most people. So minus last year, and I do honestly think last year that he was sandbagging for the Bears because they tagged him and he was like, I don't want to be here. You, Matt Nagy. I do think he was sandbagging. So in 2019 and 2020, respectively, he was wide receiver 11 and 12 with Mitch Trubisky on the Bears offense. This is going
with Matt Nagy.
Yes. This is going to be the best offense that he's played for and the best quarterback that he's ever played for in his career so far. His current ADP on Pro Fantasy Football Calculator is 604. I typically see him go later 5th round, beginning 6th round. That's where you can kind of catch him. But 604 according to them. That's people off of them like D-Hop and I forget who else was in there. Sorry, I forget. D-Hop was the big one.
Over in the 5th and 6th round? Yeah. You're probably talking about your decisions have to be between right now, Courtland Sutton and Allen Robinson.
That's probably pretty close.
I think it's pretty close. And especially getting closer and closer to the season, you're going to see Allen Robinson climb, for sure.
That's fair. But anyways, so going at 604 per fantasy football calc. Sorry, there's a fly in my house somehow. So D's will be worried about Cooper Kupp, right? Everyone's going to be like, Cooper Kupp's the number 1 target in that offense. They got to stop Cooper Kupp. So theory from me is Allen Robinson should see some softer coverages. Maybe not necessarily the number 1 corners all the time, but I mean, even if he does see number 1 corners, the lockdown corners for that team, he's still been productive in the past, being the number 1 wide receiver on the team, even though he's going to be the number 2 this year. So let me break this down for you, right? Robert Woods with the Rams last year, 21.5% target share. As soon as Odell Beckham came to the team, same exact thing. Didn't really drop any pace. They just plugged Odell in. Goff supported him and Kupp as 2 top 24 wide receivers. I'm talking about Jared Goff, right? Let's see.
You're talking about Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp.
Yes, talking about Jared Goff supported both of them.
Because when you said you threw out Odell, and I think that kind of
sorry.
Yeah.
So Robert Woods finished 18 as wide receiver 10, 19 as wide receiver 17, 20 as wide receiver 13, 21 he got injured. In 21, Woods was on pace for 123 targets, 84 receptions, 989 yards, and 8 touchdowns. He was on pace to finish as wide receiver 14 as Cooper Kupp finished wide receiver 1. Odell joined the team, like I said, and he basically just inherited that entire role and continued the same exact numbers as Robert Woods did, but with a better catch percentage.
Now, something I want to ask you, because I want to support this argument because I feel like Allen Robinson is definitely going to return a lot of value if he goes in the 6th. I don't think he ends up being there. I think he probably goes a little higher. But honestly, you got to think about those finishes. What was he? Just outside of a receiver 1 or at the back end of a receiver 1 with Blake Bortles, with Mitch Trubisky, with just nothing.
Jacksonville starting out, his, I think, rookie season wasn't very good. Sophomore season, he exploded. The third year in, he got hurt. Fourth year, didn't play a whole season, then went to the Bears, and potential came out. I do think he's a little bit older. He's 29, but I do think that in that Rams offense with Cooper Kupp being there and Stafford being a top tier, not necessarily S tier, but A tier quarterback, he can get it done.
Yeah, this is not like you just again sell it. Is that this is the best all around system that he's ever been in. So, and he's not the number 1. And I think that's perfect for what he is currently. And if he's looking for a contract, he couldn't have gone for more money. You know, he might get a third bite at that apple. Maybe. I think it's a perfect situation, and I think his ADP is right on par.
Yep. So I mean, and like I said, I read you off basically Robert Woods finishes in his numbers. I personally think that Allen Robinson probably has just a little bit more talent than Robert Woods.
Agreed. Solid points there, Aaron.
Thanks.
Solid points.
Thanks, man.
I might draft him now.
Hey. Good luck.
I wouldn't keep him from last season, that's for sure.
Nope, not where he went.
Ooh. That's a tough one. So my next guy, if you guys have been following along with the mock drafts and whatnot, you've seen me pick this guy up a lot. Definitely somebody that I've been high on.
I'm surprised I'm ready for this one.
Just because of like the opportunity that is in front of him, and because I've been a truther since day one. Rashad Bateman.
That is very fair.
I've been a Rashad Bateman truther forever. So
you wanted the Packers to draft him.
Oh my God. I was sitting on the edge of my couch, and obviously in Packers fashion, they just let me down. They hurt my feelings. They break my heart. Not with Christian Watson. They didn't do it. And I almost shed a tear when that happened. I was like, there's no way.
Third time's a charm. First year, Terry McLaurin. Who else was the year before?
It was DK. It was DK. DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, and Terry McLaurin. And I wanted them to take one of them. And instead we got, who was that? What was the tight end's name?
Sternberger. Or Stern. Stern. Jace, whatever.
Jace Sternberger. It's tough. Anyways, let's get back on track here.
I can't remember his last name. Sternberg, whatever the heck it was.
Sternberg. He's not in the NFL anymore, I think. Rashad Bateman is coming into a situation with 146 vacated targets. That's 26% of the total passing volume in Baltimore.
Is that Hollywood's target percentage?
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Yes. It didn't make sense, right? Because Hollywood dropped the ball a lot. His catch percentage was awful last season.
Lamar Jackson would be considered a top-tier passer if he'd catch roughly any of it.
Crazy. So currently, Rashad Bateman's going in the 8th round, the middle of the 8th. So you might catch him falling to the back of the 9th. And that's really when I've been drafting him a lot in our drafts, because he falls a little bit. And look, if you're going to get a receiver one, the receiver one in that system, in the back of the 9th,
what else? You got to take Mark Andrews in the 3rd, 4th.
It's true. I mean, obviously Mark Andrews is the number one target there, but not the number one receiver.
That's fair.
As the position goes. So I think that being that Mark Andrews is probably going to garner a lot more attention in that offense than Rashad Bateman's going to. A lot of what Hollywood was doing, I think Rashad Bateman can mimic, not to the extent, because Hollywood Brown is real fast. He ran a 4.32. He's real fast. But Bateman ain't no slouch. He's pretty fast too.
Yeah.
So the percentage of deep field targets or deep targets that Lamar threw to Hollywood was around 27% of the throws that he threw to Hollywood. Right? That's 8th in the NFL.
Okay.
That was 8th last season. If Rashad Bateman can get a little bit of that, do you not see that his outcome could be mid-range receiver 2 in the back of the 8th and beginning of the 9th?
That's fair.
The value there, the value on his, I guess, potential. Now, he was hurt last season. We didn't get to see a lot of him. It is a scary concept to just like, hey, let's just jump into something based off potential alone, right?
Yeah.
But I think that it's less scary. It's less cumbersome, you could say, if you're jumping into it at the back of the 8th, beginning of the 9th. You know, that's why he's my guy, is because of where he's going. Now, if he was in the 4th round, I don't know about all that. But I think the passing volume that he could get alone, just because of that many vacated targets, will be enough to sustain him into, if he stays healthy, a guaranteed receiver 2.
Yeah. I mean, I can see it. I mean, Hollywood last year was
viable with a lot of drops.
Football, yeah. So.
With a lot of drop passes. And this is to couple to say that Lamar was also more inaccurate than he'd been in the last 2 years last season.
Mm-hmm.
He was more inaccurate, but it was also, Hollywood was just missing a lot of passes.
Yeah.
He just wasn't there. You know, he wasn't catching the ball. I can remember 4 drop touchdowns in Detroit.
We don't want to talk about it.
Perfectly.
We don't want to talk about it. You just get riled up. But anyways, so Rashad Bateman, huh?
Yeah, Rashad Bateman.
All right, I'm gonna mix it up a little bit. I'm gonna go a little off order of the show doc here. Probably gonna catch some flack for this one too. Might be a little bit spicy take. Most people probably be like, "Hey, you're crazy."
They raise my eyebrows.
But David Montgomery, right? So David Montgomery current ADP is the 308. Let me ask you a question. Per fantasy football calc, he's going around Cam Akers. Who would you rather have, David Montgomery or Cam Akers?
Man, that's tough because I'm almost 100% sure that work is going to get split with Darrell Henderson. It's going to.
Okay.
I want David Montgomery.
David Montgomery or J.K. Dobbins?
David Montgomery.
Are you sure?
That one I had to think about,
close.
But J.K. Dobbins isn't going to be there for the beginning of the season. So
Why do you say that?
He is, he's not. Because he's still not really practicing that much.
He might be all right.
Anyways, I would probably take David Montgomery.
So, David Montgomery or Travis Etienne?
Is this a full point?
We'll go off a half point.
Probably David Montgomery, but that's very close.
Okay. So that's around where he's going, right? And as you just said, you think Cam Akers is going to get the workload split. You think Dobbins probably isn't going to play. They'll probably ease him back in, through the first 4 weeks of the year, roughly. And then Etienne, kind of just personal preference there. Both of those offenses are probably going to be pretty close to similar, with the Jags maybe edging them out just a little bit, but they're going to want their franchise quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, with all the hype to really be the focal point of the offense. You know what I mean? So 2019, rookie year, he finished running back 25. 2020, finished running back 4. 2021, on a 17-game season, he only played 13 games, and he finished the running back 21. So he missed 4 games, finished running back 21. Yeah. So David Montgomery, he's had 88 last year. He had 84% of the rush share, 85% of the rush yards on the team, 12% of the target share on the team. He had 12 5-zone attempts, so inside the 5-yard line rushing attempts, and only converted 5 of those into touchdowns. Kind of like we talk about with Dalvin Cook, where he had all of those inside the 5-zone attempts and converted a small number of those. So, and I do think that Justin Fields will run the football. Obviously, but that's going to be more. I don't think they're going to be so much a designed runs as it is as the pocket breaks down and he has to scramble.
It's the first life, yes.
So, but I do expect them to, and with that being said, I expect them to hand the ball off more to David Montgomery and draw up more run plays to kind of get it's easier to run block than pass block, right? If you're an offensive lineman. So I expect that to happen so they can get the games over with quick, especially if they're up on the lead, so they don't turn the ball over as much. So then take some of the weight off of Justin Fields' shoulders and trying to force it to Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet all game because that's the only two people that they have.
I can see the picture you're painting me right now.
So
I can see it.
My last point to kind of nail this home is he's in the third round. I get it, but he's not a bad running back too for your team. If you start off with elite wide receiver, and another wide receiver, or an elite running back, and then a wide receiver, and then him as running back too. You know what I mean? Because once you get to rounds like 4, 5, 6, 7, it's kind of the running back dead zone. So he's one of those last viable options that you can pick up in the third round, and especially the back of the third round. So.
Now I want to ask you a couple questions here.
Okay.
So do you think that the Bears offense, or I guess the Bears coaching staff, is smart enough to just run the ball and take that pressure off of Justin Fields?
Now that Matt Nagy is not in town, yes.
Okay. It just because I gotta get this on record, because I'm like, look, man, I don't believe that the Bears are doing anything to help Justin Fields out. And that's what scares me about David Montgomery. But your points are valid. I'm not saying they're not. They are absolutely valid. And especially if Khalil Herbert is dealing with injuries and he's not going to be actually splitting carries and it is all David Montgomery, then just pure volume alone, he'll finish as a running back too.
Yep. And I mean, you've seen it with Tariq Cohen too, who was on the team, what was it, 2019 and 2020? Mm-hmm. He still finished borderline running back too, and then a top 5 running back.
Would you rather take Josh Jacobs or David Montgomery?
You know, I was thinking about that.
I think that's the best comp.
As I was thinking about who I would really, when I was making my list, Josh Jacobs' name did come up.
Mm-hmm. It's going to go up too now that Kenny Drake is gone.
I know. So I feel like Josh Jacobs is going to creep into a mid to early third round running back. So I'd probably still take David Montgomery just because Devontae's a Raider now. Darren Waller's there. Hunter Renfro's there. They're going to have to pass a lot in that division to keep up with, the likes of the Chiefs and the Broncos and the Chargers like that.
Yeah.
Is going to be a shootout division where not going to be a lot of defense being played. So it might be good for them, but I feel like they're going to pass more than anything.
How about James Conner?
I don't know.
That's a tougher one because he's going to go in the third round too.
Yeah, I think James Conner probably has more touchdown upside, but it's not a sticky stat. So,
yeah, it's just names to kind of bounce off you because they're going to be going, I would assume, closer and closer to the season starting. They're going to be going closer and closer to each other. Yeah. So, and it's funny because my last guy. Ugh. So I want you guys to know that before we did all these stats and whatnot, we looked into the numbers and things. Since, Eric's supposed to be our stat guy, he didn't do our stats. He told us to...
We didn't give him names, and he didn't get to just give us everything we can talk about.
He told us to pound sand. So, I had James Conner on here, right? I did. Yep. I had James Conner. Because I'm like, there's no way he doesn't repeat. There's no way.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started looking at the statistics behind this whole thing. All of the numbers that go into James Conner's breakouts. I guess not breakout season. His breakout season was second year, but like his top 5 finish last season.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that was due to the amount of receptions that he was getting, and that was coupled to, or I guess linked to, one, DeAndre Hopkins not being there, which again he's not going to be there in the beginning of the season. That's what initially got me onto this train. But Chase Edmonds was also hurt. So that's why he was necessary in a lot of those situations. Chase Edmonds missed a few games last season too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the guy that I actually want to talk about, this is why we brought up like, oh, well, we were doing all these stats, and then we got hit with some news. Darrell Williams might be a surprise cut. He might be. But I want to preface this by, if he is still on the Cardinals roster, for what he showed in Kansas City last season, I can't imagine. Why would they cut him? Why? He's a better Chase Edmonds. He is. He's got better hands. That man can catch everything.
Okay.
I'm telling you, man. So, last season, there was about 144 rushing attempts for 558 yards, 6 touchdowns, and then that was his Darrell Williams' stats on Kansas City on the ground. 47 targets, 452 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air.
Okay.
You got to think that he took over midway through the season, and then he kind of floundered out because they started moving the ball around a lot more in the backfield. But the first 6 games that D-Hop isn't there is what really chimed in on what Darrell Williams could actually be. So in that same stretch that DeAndre Hopkins was not in Arizona, right?
Mm-hmm.
That 7-game stretch that he wasn't there, really.
Yeah.
Chase Edmonds was on track for 33 targets through that time frame.
It's almost 6 targets a game.
Almost 6 targets a game, or almost 90 targets on the season.
Okay.
If you have a running back that's getting 90 targets on the season,
look at J.D. McKissick.
He was viable.
Wow.
He was viable. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to go win you the league. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that he can get you through some weeks while some things shake out in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
If he's still there. If he's still in Arizona. And I got to keep prefacing that because we got that news. It's so upsetting because his ADP is in the 15th round.
Hey.
Around guys that you don't even know their names.
Try me.
Well, maybe people do know their names. But maybe everybody listening here, they know their names. But I'm just saying that with the last pick of your draft, if you can get a guy that can get you through some weeks because you know there's going to be some injuries, you know that you can take a flyer on a guy like that to get you through maybe 10 points a week with those kind of receptions. Might be something worth looking at.
Sounds good. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to take someone might be a surprise cut, but
my argument was a lot better before that news, all right?
I was going to say, I understand where you're coming from before the surprise cut.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, this is gold in front of me. And now it's fool's gold. It's fool's gold.
There it is. It's a rock painted gold. So I'm not going to give anybody a deep cut like Ray did, okay? I'm not going to do that. But I am, however, and I've talked about him before, and I do, if he's there, typically he always crosses my mind on the draft board of I might actually draft this guy. Brandon Cooks is going to be the next guy that we talk about. Do you want to know why we're going to talk about Brandon Cooks, Ray?
I always want to know.
Because Brandon Cooks finished as a wide receiver 2 with Davis Mills last year.
Do you think that he can do it again with Davis Mills?
Did they draft anybody to challenge him?
Yeah. Okay, so maybe change that question because they did draft somebody.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah, maybe change that one.
Bad luck, but do they have anybody currently on the roster right now that's going to challenge him for his, let me see, 27% target share that he had last year?
No.
Okay, so do you see his target share going down at all?
No, I guess not.
Maybe to 25%? Maybe. Okay, so Brandon Cooks, 8-year vet. Out of the 8 years that he's been in the NFL, he's played for 4 different teams.
Feels like 8.
Okay. He's been a top 20 player 6 of the 8 years. He's been a top 15 player 5 of the 8 years. And he was a top 12. It was 2 of the years.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, 4 different teams, 8 years. It's pretty good for 6 top 20s. Mm-hmm. 2 years he didn't finish in the top 20. I think one was with New Orleans and one was with the Rams. So, anyways, as I've already said, 27% target share. Don't see anyone taking that away from him. Current ADP is 5'11 per fantasy football calculator. I know I talked about Allen Robinson, kind of in that same area. You know, might have to choose between one or the other, or if you're on the turn, you might be able to get both. But I do believe that he will be a solid 3rd wide receiver drafted for your team because I don't see him going anywhere above the 5th round. So you can start out running back. Tell me if this sounds good. Let's say Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, Keenan Allen, Michael Pittman, or we'll go Cortland Sutton and then Brandon Cooks. Does that sound like a good start?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? I would bet that because a lot of people sleep on Brandon Cooks. A lot of people do. And to be honest with you, there's outside of like his concussions, it's not really a big injury risk outside of those concussions.
Yeah. And that's the 2 years he didn't finish in the top 20.
Yeah.
So anyways, finished at wide receiver 20 last year. Above average consistency. He is a fairly consistent player. Had 9 red zone targets, but he only converted 2 of those into touchdowns.
You could see that efficiency, that kind of progressing to more. You can see that.
Maybe, yeah.
I thought you saw enough out of Davis Mills that, like, you shouldn't be super afraid of, some of his targets. They're going to have to throw a ton. That team sucks.
And he's got
team sucks.
He's got a 4.5% touchdown per target rate. League average is roughly like 6.2. So he was below league average last year, but I would assume you'd put that on the third round rookie quarterback Davis Mills.
Yeah.
So if it goes up a little bit, they get a little more efficient into the 5s. He could probably creep in closer to, wide receiver 15 again.
Mm-hmm. It couldn't be as bad as they were last season.
That's what I'm saying. And that's not bad for a guy who's going at the 5-6 turn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and
we've seen him in the 7th.
Yep. Another bonus point is he falls in, like I talked about earlier when I was talking about David Montgomery, he falls in that running back dead zone where there's not really very many good running backs that you're going to be looking at. So if you poise yourself early with some good running backs, you can always fall back to a consistent Brandon Cooks, whose chances are going to finish in the top 24 again, like he always does. It kind of helps, solidify your team as just a flex play. You know what I mean? As your flex player on your roster.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that. I agree all around with everything you just said.
Okay.
There's a couple more names that I wanted to bring up. Okay. Just off the top of my head. Just because I feel like we haven't really talked about it that much. And look, you guys know that I don't particularly care about tight ends that much unless they're the top 4. But I really think that people need to start paying attention and maybe getting on board with Pat Freiermuth.
With the news?
I feel like, honest to God, look at what Mitch Trubisky did with Jimmy Graham, and I guess Cole Kmet was there too for a little bit. Like, he was there for the tail end of that. But he was able to make those two productive in a system that was not necessarily made to make them productive. Now now Mitch is in a better passing offense, you could say, with more weapons around. I think Pat Freiermuth might be a sneaky late round tight end that might creep into that, I guess you could say top 5 tight ends as the 5 and nothing higher.
Okay.
And now that might win you a couple more points,
Mm-hmm.
I also wanted to talk about Kyle Pitts for a second too. I am not particularly high on Kyle Pitts this season on a redraft. I'm probably avoiding him in every facet that I could. Now, watch him prove me wrong.
Take Kyle Pitts in a dynasty startup. Redrafts, no, don't do that. Don't hear what we're not saying. Essentially,
and I'm not saying that Kyle Pitts isn't viable. I'm not saying that he couldn't get it done, but you got to think. Last season, he had not necessarily a Hall of Famer, but a much better quarterback than Marcus Mariota and whatever Desmond Ridder might be right now.
Yeah.
Much better. He also had probably a better situation with Cordell Patterson being moved around more, which I don't think is going to happen this season.
You don't think so?
Probably not with Mariota being a more mobile quarterback than Matt Ryan. I think that's why Cordell Patterson was so necessary in that situation, is to kind of give Matt Ryan legs. Now, again, who knows, right? Atlanta's a big unknown.
Yeah.
But I'm just really standoffish on Kyle Pitts in a redraft just because the quarterback change is so dramatic and so negative that I can't see him finishing in the top 5. I can't see it. And that's like at 5. There's no way that he can get higher than that.
And to kind of solidify or help your point here, Matt Ryan with Julio Jones was a top receiver, so it's not like he can't support it. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. Matt Ryan played with Tony Gonzalez too, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah. So you see what I'm saying? Like, so he can do it, and Mariota in Tennessee could not do it. Granted, it probably didn't have the caliber of receivers, such
Really?
as a Kyle Pitts.
I would say caliber receivers to Kyle Pitts, probably not. But like caliber receivers to the receiving core as a whole,
yeah.
probably a lot worse in Atlanta because I can't name one person.
Now, yeah,
like
now.
Zacchaeus, is that the Quentin Zacchaeus? Is that the only other receiver I know there?
They have Drake London there.
And Drake London, I'm sorry, and Drake London.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as caliber of receiver is Kyle Pitts, I don't. My faith isn't in Marcus Mariota. We've seen him be a starter and not get picked up for another starting gig until now due to last minute trades. You know what I mean? So,
and he is a bridge quarterback if I've ever seen one.
Yep. So, and I honestly don't think Atlanta's playing. They'll never admit this, but I don't think they're playing to try to get in the playoffs this year. I think that they're poisoning themselves to have some work around Desmond Ridder to build him up just in case they don't have an early pick this year to get one of the quarterbacks coming out in this year's draft.
Yeah.
So
I got one more name. Do you got one right now?
I don't have one.
I got one more. So I remember talking about this, last year. Coming into the next season, I was like, hey, make sure you guys remember who Trey Lance is. Just remember. And right now, I think Trey Lance's ADP is pretty nice compared to what he's going to be. Would you rather have Trey Lance or Jalen Hurts?
Jalen Hurts. No,
this is the second time I've asked you that.
Yep, known commodity. Both times I said Jalen Hurts.
I know.
I'm not switching back.
I just want to make sure that it hasn't changed yet.
Okay.
I'm rising more and more on Trey Lance just because I know that that's going to be not only just a very efficient running game with both the running backs and him himself, but also I think that he is just as good as passer as Jimmy Garoppolo. Couldn't be worse. Couldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, probably couldn't be worse than Jimmy G. Could probably actually throw the ball further down the field than Jimmy
a lot better than that. Yeah.
But yeah, actually, I do want to bring one up. Are you done with Trey Lance?
Yeah, I'm done with Trey Lance. I just wanted to bring that name up. His ADP is looking nice.
Okay.
Hopefully it stays there. Just keep that name in mind.
That's fine. Gabe Davis. I've talked about him before.
Here we go.
Bringing him up again. Gabe Davis is going to be the third-year receiver. First 2 years in the NFL, pretty much similar. I think 70-something targets, 63 or 62 1 year, 63 the other, 500-something, 600-something yards, couple tutters. But you've seen, and everyone's going to be like, oh, it's a one game. Like I've talked about before. Yes, it's one game that he had a good game, but he has been utilized. And now I do believe that he is going to be the number 2 in that offense. Everyone's talking about Isaiah McKenzie, but I think Isaiah McKenzie runs out of the slot.
I was just about to bring that name up.
I think he runs out of the slot and takes Jamison Crowder out of a job. But I do think in 2 wide receiver sets, Gabe Davis is going to be there, and he is going to be mightily productive.
So I keep seeing that as Isaiah McKenzie name come up, and he's been there for a little while, right?
I think the same time as Gabe Davis, 3 years.
So
his third year.
He's also a similar, almost identical build to Cole Beasley. Yeah. And there's a lot of vacated targets there. Now, obviously, I don't have those targets on hand. But I don't hear anybody mentioning Khalil Shakir. I don't hear that name enough. And he's been silently great in preseason. Silently great.
I don't know.
Last week he had like 6 receptions for 100 yards. He's been great. Yep. So I'm just obviously this is a very, very deep shout. But I don't think that job is Isaiah McKenzie's 100%. I feel like because Khalil Shakir was a slot receiver at Boise. He's a great slot receiver. He was solid. And he's a little bigger body. I just think that maybe it's not necessarily just going to be Isaiah McKenzie. And I want to put some water on that fire before it becomes an inferno that somebody...
Oh, I was trying to cool Isaiah McKenzie off too, because I don't think...
Yeah.
So, but...
to feed up what you were saying.
A little bit of a reminder here, if you are in redraft, not so much, but if you're in keepers or dynasties, keepers mainly, Jameson Williams, Detroit Lions, injured. Sometimes he gets drafted, sometimes he doesn't, but if he's there halfway through your season, be a few weeks early. Spend that fab just a few weeks early to put him in your IR.
Definitely something. Yeah. My dad just did a draft the other day. And he said that no one drafted DeAndre Hopkins. And I'm like,
A redraft league?
Yeah, in a redraft. No one
Better
drafted
drop someone,
DeAndre
pick him
Hopkins.
up right now.
Somebody already did that. Somebody was above and beyond the curve. But he told me,
Do they have IR slot?
Why did you not? I do not think they do. Also, put an IR spot, and you're like, I would have put him on my bench. He had drafted 3 tight ends. Like, what are you doing?
What are you
doing? What are you doing? But
your dad drafted 3 tight ends?
It's unfortunate, right?
How does he not listen to the show?
It's look, Pops, you listening? No 3 tight ends anymore, please. That's a bad look. It's tough. But
super tough.
Super tough. He told me that and I laughed at him. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. What are you thinking?
I've lost all faith.
Yeah. So, all that being said, everything that we were talking about today, this is all based off of either who is going around them or their potential in a system that has vacated targets or vacated work. So just keep that in mind, you know?
Yep. I'm not saying I'm going to climb the mountaintops and stab my flag, and if they don't do good, jump off of that said mountain. I'm just saying, pay attention. The only one that I would really kind of hurt you would be David Montgomery out of this whole entire thing.
I think so.
But he's proven it to be at least a running back too. So
yeah, on that same team with that same crappy offensive line, and he's done it before. So I mean, why could he not do it again?
That's fair. You got anything else, Raymond?
No, sir.
Okay, guys. Well, you know what to do. If you could, please like the videos, subscribe on YouTube, hit the plus button on Apple Podcast, and subscribe on Spotify, whichever one of those platforms you listen to. And until next time, we will see you later.